Great. Welcome, welcome. All right. Let me start, I guess, on the screen. Give folks a couple minutes to join in. Alrighty. I think eventually we're gonna get one of those like little like waiting room kind of stream things at some point. But we still need to work on that. I think the streaming setup is very much in its infancy right now. All right, let's do it. So I think here I basically kind of like pulled out the best cards out of Mastery Pack Guardian. So I kind of want to start the stream by doing this, and then I think we're gonna then talk about I guess the list I want to play, and we'll kind of just talk about Valda and Mastery Pack Guardian as a whole. I think that's kind of the rough plan. Make sure everything's okay. Tegan, if you're listening, can you tell me if things look good? Great. I think might as well just go ahead and get started. So I wanted to kind of do like a mini, I guess, set review of Master Pack Guardian to kind of like start out the video. I think this is mostly going to be maybe for the VOD viewers at this point. Okay, Tegan, things look good. But yeah, I wanted to kind of do like a mini review of like the Master Pack Guardian cards. So I kind of pulled out like I think the most impactful cards for Mastery Pack Guardian. I think there's like a lot of kind of like limited chaff that you kind of have to like sift through because I think there's like a lot of reprints, a lot of just cards that are like pretty much almost exclusively good and limited. Like we can actually kind of look at the set as well. So let's actually look at like Mastery Pack Guardian real quick. But I wanted to try to like pull out, I guess, like the best cards from Mastery Pack Guardian and kind of like talk about them. So I've kind of like skipped over a lot of the more kind of like chaff cards, or the cards that I think aren't as good as in constructed. So I think like these annexations are probably pretty bad. Just being a 5/8, it's like not great. 5/8 yellow. I think there are a couple other ones that are kind of like similar, so like Break Stature, fairly similar. Clash of Bravado actually might be kind of like an interesting, so we'll maybe add that one in there. But like the Clash of Heads cards, like the Clash of Legs, I think these are in general kind of like anything that specifies that you're like having to play against another Guardian. I think automatically kind of goes to chaff in my mind. All right. So yeah, I basically try to pull out kind of like the best cards from Master Pack Guardian. So let's go ahead and talk about them. So let's I guess start with like Aftershock. So Aftershock, pretty powerful card. Basically just a 3/8. If assuming that you have a Seismic Surge and then you refresh your Seismic Surge, pretty powerful card. I think that the set introduces a lot of 3/8s, which is actually pretty good. This one notably doesn't have an on hit, but does have the additional benefit of giving you additional Seismic Surge, which is fantastic. So I think this card is fairly strong, especially for a rare. Next, I want to talk about, I guess, like the bindings. I think there's a cycle of these, or I guess cycle of these that all basically have the same exact stat line. We basically have the 6/10s, right? So the 6/10 crush cards, each of these just have heave 2. These are actually kind of interesting. So one of the things that I initially kind of like missed about this card is like I initially dismissed this as draft chaff, which to some extent it is. But in Valda specifically, if you read her hero text, if you control 3 or more Seismic Surge cards you own with crush, get dominated this turn. So basically, it's kind of almost like a better stat line than like Red Thunderquake, for instance, which is also a 6/10. But you get the added benefit of having, I guess, kind of like an irrelevant crush ability, but it's a crush ability, so it basically turns this into like 6/10 dominate, which is kind of cool. And the heave 2 also allows you to do some like interesting things, like you have some flexibility with like pummel and stuff, which I think makes this card pretty interesting. So I think the cycle of cards is like actually a lot better than it looks. Like I kind of want to play with it a little bit more, but 6/10 dominates actually like kind of not bad. Next, let's talk about copper backups. This is kind of like an interesting like fatigue, or I guess like it's almost kind of like remembrance-ish, but you get to like draw the card immediately. So You can do some kind of like interesting things. It's also a popper for what it's worth. So you basically give your opponent a choice between like 2 attack actions in your graveyard. You get to force them to choose the worst one and then give that to you and put that on top. So kind of an interesting tech card. I don't know if we're necessarily at the point where this is good, but it's like kind of interesting. It's an interesting effect. I don't know if like this is necessarily a card that's like going to see immediate play, but kind of like an interesting utility card. I guess it's like kind of the game grows and stuff like that. Next, let's talk about Crash and Bash. Very, very good. Just 0 for 4 block card. Pretty stat line, has the added benefit of making a Seismic Surge, and you don't have to like clash or anything to do this. So this is actually quite nice. So you get to basically defend with this, make a Seismic Surge. Overall, pretty good, I'd say. This is basically the exact same stat line as the Binding of the Old One, so we're probably not going to talk about it. But basically, I'm assuming here that the effects are like basically irrelevant. Like you basically just ignore the crush effect. This is assuming that Guardians are not like the top of the meta, right? Like I'm assuming that maybe the Guardians don't actually get a ton of like meta equity from the set just because of like the natural predators in the meta. So like I'm basically ignoring the stat line of this, or the ability of this card, which is a little bit sad, but like I think you kind of have to some extent. I think the ability is like mostly for limited if I had to guess. All right, next let's move on to Fault Line. So this card's also really strong. So kind of in a similar vein in terms of like 3 for 8s kind of. So it's a similar stat line to like Aftershock, if you kind of think about it that way. But basically kind of a 3 for 8 if you have an arsenal, and then if it deals 4 more damage to a hero, put all cards in all arsenals. So it affects your arsenal as well as your opponent's arsenal. I think the card's pretty strong. I played a couple games with it and it's felt pretty good. Like you can just tuck a random, like if you have like just a random crappy blue, you want to tuck an arsenal, you don't really care about getting rid of it, then attacking with it, it's pretty fine. And if you also have like the added benefit of like pummeling or like not having an arsenal, then this card doesn't get the +1. It's like a 3 for 7, but that's also still kind of like a fine stat line. So overall, I'd say this card's pretty solid as well. And also having the crush means that like with Valda, you get the dominate as well. Next, let's go to Geyser. So Geyser's an interesting one. You're basically paying 2 mana for 3 mana functionally. You get this in the form of Seismic Surge, which is quite cool, and then you basically get destroyed at the end, which is it's kind of like you're basically getting like 3 resources for 2 resources, which is kind of cool, but you do have to do a little bit of setup and work to kind of get that to work. Notably, this does also double with the Ley Line of the Old One, so if you get a Ley Line out early, then this gets a lot better. But I think on its own, it's like a fine card. I'm not super compelled by this card. Just being a red 3 block though is like pretty fine. I don't know. I'm not like super sold on this card, at least for constructed, but limited definitely seems like pretty all right. All right, next card I want to talk about is Overswing. So this is actually really interesting. So the effect here is weird, right? Because it's almost like a kind of like similar. So a lot of the cards in the set have Heave 2, which I imagine is kind of like what I think they were thinking was you basically like bluff pummel and then you have like an Overswing or like a Ley Line of the Old Ones instead, and then your opponent like overblock to pummel and then you get to like set up for the next turn. So I think that's what like Heave 2 is basically trying to do, right? So you basically get to turn this 2 mana into 2 Seismic Surges. So notably, you're not going to be able to use the Seismic Surges to pay for the Overswing on the next turn, but you can use it to like discard whatever you're attacking with, so it's actually not that bad. But I think this card's like kind of interesting. I don't know if it's like constructed playable because all in all, you're still kind of like doing like a 2 for 3, which is not super good, but like it's kind of an interesting effect. I kind of actually don't mind this card all that much, but I think maybe just like a little bit below rate for constructed. All right, next let's go ahead and talk about Peck Perfect. So this card's interesting. So it seems like there's like this weird like mill sub theme of this set. Like if you look at like Peck Perfect, I guess let's maybe talk about like the mill sub theme kind of like different from the rest of the cards. So Peck Perfect I think kind of fits into that sub theme where you're like trying to like maybe like mill your opponent out. So whenever a card defends this, clash with the defending hero. So basically it has like a kind of pseudo evasion where maybe your opponent doesn't want to block this because they don't want to like mill a bunch of cards, so it's like a 5 for 9 unblockable kind of, or if they do want to block, then it's also fine for them. Notably, it doesn't have crush, so it's a little bit worse than like Valda, so like maybe you run this in some weird like victor list or something, I don't know. The card's kind of interesting, but maybe the support isn't all the way there, so I don't really fully know how to kind of like evaluate this card. Like it feels like it's for a hero that maybe doesn't exist yet is kind of what it feels like to me. But that's kind of just my initial take on it. Similar thing with like Daily Grind. This card's actually like very, very powerful though. This might be the most like powerful card in, I guess, like the mill archetype they're kind of going for. So basically you're getting like a 0 for 3 that disincentivizes your opponent to like attack into you on the next turn. So all your attack action cards get clash, and then destroy the top card. So it's basically like you could theoretically turn this into a mill 4 if you wanted to, if you blocked with your full hand the next turn. So it's kind of an interesting effect. But again, a lot of that is like kind of RNG dependent, and also maybe it doesn't work against some heroes. So maybe like a little bit inconsistent there. Similar thing with like Leave a Dent. So this is, I think, like the last main card in kind of like the mill cycle. So this is kind of like Terra Sunder, but costs 0, and then gives your next Guardian attack like a crush, destroy top 4, which is interesting. But like, I don't know if we're at the point where like this amount of mill actually like matters, because it feels like there's not like a critical mass of like consistent ways to mill. Like this is like a interactive way to mill, as opposed to like a if it just said 0 for 4 like mill 4 cards from your opponent, that's like obviously pretty broken. But like putting this on attack means that your opponent can block it, and it's also a crush effect, so it's not even a non-hit, which makes it a little bit awkward, right? So that's kind of like the mill sub theme. I guess now it's next. This also, I guess this isn't technically like mill sub theme, but this is also like an interesting tech card. I pulled this out. I don't think this is going to see play for at least a pretty decent amount of time. Like I think there has to be like a weird meta where you want to play this in a hero that clashes, and then you also want to like destroy auras your opponent's control. So I feel like this is more of a limited card for now. But like it's an interesting utility card, so I kind of like pulled it out here. But I think that maybe we're not quite in the meta for this yet. But Clash, basically the winner gets to destroy an aura the other hero controls. Pretty powerful if there ever is like a meta where like auras are super relevant. I think like what are the most relevant auras right now? Probably like Channel Millennium Tree, Ring of Roses. Like those are generally kind of like the best ones. But I don't even foresee you like running this in like Bird. I don't know. It feels like a card currently without a home, but maybe it's a little bit more interesting later. And then I guess let's talk about kind of like the expansion set cards from. So put them in your place. This is like the new Valda spec, very, very powerful card, kind of like a Mind Warp. And it's a similar stat line to, I guess, like Red Thunderquake or like Binding of the Old Gods. So pretty good. 6 for 10, and then you also have the Crush ability, so it gets Dominate if you're playing Valda most of the time. So all in all, pretty good card, and it also basically gets you a bunch of Seismic Surges on the back end, assuming that you crush with it. Sometimes it doesn't crush, sometimes it does crush, but overall I'd say it's like still just a powerful card. It's basically like a Crippling Crush light-ish is what it feels like to me. And then I think that's let's I guess also talk about like new Valda cards. So Seismic Eruption, I think this card is just very, very strong. Getting to put this in Arsenal, and then like if your opponent goes for like CNC, you play Seismic Eruption, you're feeling pretty happy, and then you get a lot of flexibility in just like in terms of like just setting this up. So I think this card is very, very good. I think it's probably at like a 3-of for Valda. I think this card is just like very independently strong. And I guess let's talk about new Victor cards. So Test of Iron Grip. So if this was an Armory deck, which it kind of is, this I guess would be like the one weird card that's really meant for another hero instead of like the original hero. Test of Iron Grip seems pretty good for Victor. I think it's so weird because like Trounce is also quite good in Victor. But Trounce is like obviously a little less consistent, and this obviously blocks an additional 1. You kind of get like a similar value proposition where you're discarding a card from your opponent's hand, whereas with Trounce you're sometimes drawing a card and like making Might and Vigor. So I think pretty comparable effects. I'm curious to see if like I'm assuming Victor is probably going to run this over Trounce, just for probably more consistency is my guess. But you do lose out on a little bit of your gold generation, so maybe this is like cybered for Victor. I'm not fully up to date on kind of like the Victor kind of like meta, I guess. Things look good. Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, I'm not sure where exactly this is going to sit with Victor. Like maybe this is auto-include, maybe this is sideboard, maybe this is like just worse than Trounce. I think time will probably tell on this one, but my initial inclination is this probably does replace Trounce. All right, moving on to Captain of the Guard. So this card's like weird. I feel like this is for like a Guardian meta. I don't know. A lot of cards in the set are like for a Guardian meta, which is very weird. I feel like maybe trying to get a little ahead of ourselves here, because this one basically kind of like gives your defending cards a buff based on or I guess it's not even when was defending cards with power greater than the attack they are defending get +1. So it's like it's so weird. I guess it's like you want to defend a big attack with this, but you also want to defend a big attack assuming that you're running bigger attacks than your opponent, which is like really weird. I don't like this card doesn't even make a ton of sense to me. Like maybe this is just like a limited card and I'm not seeing it, but like it's so weird. Like you're wanting to defend like a mid-size attack with this and then another card. I guess like the like let's say you defend like a CNC with like a Spinal Crush and this. I guess you're functionally getting like 6 block. I don't know. This card is like very hard to evaluate for me. It just kind of also seems like another weird one that maybe doesn't have like a lot of context for like what the new cards in the next set are going to be or something. But I don't fully understand this card. And let's talk about, I guess, like the elephant in the room. So this is the card that I think a lot of people are dreaming about, which is Fearless Confrontation. So it's blue, 3 block, and you can basically ignore like the stat line on it. Like you're not playing it for 3 costs, or you're not sending 5 with it. So what this card does is it's basically a drop in the ocean. So you basically pay 0 to an instant speed, discard this, and then a target attack gets -1. And you can even also ignore the dominate clause. So this is basically like a gravy card, which is really weird. So now for like the gravy matchup, what you have to now do is basically like play around them having like 1 or more of this effect. I assume you normally try to play around them having like 1 effects, but basically what this means is like if you attack an ally, it's no longer guaranteed that you're going to kill that ally. So I think a lot of people are doing on this card for probably the right reasons. Like drop in the ocean is a very powerful effect, even if it's drop in the ocean without transcend, especially for like an ally based deck. So it's going to be a lot more tricky to kill allies if assuming that like Gravy actually like plays this, which a lot of people are suggesting that he will. This card is going to be probably a powerhouse. Yeah, that card, I imagine this card is also going to tilt me out of the game. Like, yeah, I'm also surprised it's didn't get an EA treatment. Like, this card, I almost wonder if they have to, like, errata this card to, like, say, like, if you're attacking a hero or something, target attacking a hero gets -1. Because, like, let's say you play out a chum, or, like, your Gravy opponent plays out a chum, and then you swing out with, like, a CNC for 6. You're now no longer like guaranteed to kill Gravy's ally because of that. Which I guess you have 3 in the deck, so maybe it's limited, but like that could basically be like a 0 mana blowout. And with the amount of cards that like, yeah, or like if you strike on a whale, like there's so many like breakpoint there's so many cards right now where it's like the breakpoints have to line up perfectly in order to like actually deal with Gravy's board. Like let's say you have like let's say like your opponent's Gravy plays out like a whaler and they also somehow get like what's that card? Sawbones out, right? So then let's say you're trying to like set up a felling on the whaler coming in for 8. So now it's like no longer guaranteed that you're going to kill that whaler. So you could just be sending a felling at a whaler and then you like get -1 damage and then the whaler and the Sawbones both live, which is kind of insane. So like everything you now have to do against Gravy has to get above an additional damage threshold, which I think is like maybe just a little too much. Like I don't know. We'll have to see what this card does, but like I think people have a legitimate concern about this card. I'm honestly hoping that Gravies don't run it, but like I think that very likely that Gravies are probably going to run this as a 3 of is my kind of initial guess. All right. And then let's I guess finish up the last couple cards here. So these are like the blues. So Solid Ground, Valda blue. I've actually heard a lot of people like talking about this card and not being like super impressed by it, but I think it's like fine. Just being like a blue 3 for 5, like you're basically getting like blue unmovable stats, which is a card that was already run in like past Bravo list, like super old Bravo list, but like still like a pretty decent stat line. And then if you get to play it as a 0 cost, it's obviously like insane. You get a blue 0 for 5 block. I think that's pretty reasonable. So I kind of like this card. I think that you might have some consistency issues if you don't get like the full number of Seismic Surges, because if this costs 1, then you're basically pitching a card to play it anyways. Tegan thinks it's fine, it doesn't hit Wildfire. Yep. Gravy catching a ban is interesting. I think he might have to, like, the problem is, like, what do they ban that doesn't prevent him from, like, gatekeeping half the decks in the format? Like, I don't know. Yeah, Gravy's very interesting. Okay, so Solid Ground seems good. I also quite like Ley Line of the old ones. So this is basically like Valda's like power card, legendary. Basically doubles the amount of Seismic Surge tokens, and then he creates one when it enters the arena or whenever you deal damage. So very powerful. Or no, sorry, this doesn't double the amount. Wait, why did I think this doubles? Sorry, no. Whenever you deal damage, create a Seismic Surge token. So basically just 0 for 1, create a Seismic Surge token, and then whenever you create a Seismic Surge, whenever you deal damage, you create a Seismic Surge. So pretty powerful. I think I was confusing this with Promising Terrain, so this is like the doubling effect. But Ley Line's pretty strong. I think that this card, like, if it can net you like what 3 or 4 Seismic Surge tokens, like this thing sticks around pretty easily, right? Especially if you're running like Tectonic Planing, which I think this incentivizes you to do. Then this card obviously is pretty strong, and then just being a Guardian instant aura also pretty good. Also durable off like Imposing Visage and stuff, so I think this card pretty solid. And then Promising Terrain, this is the card that was confused originally. So this is like the doubling Seismic Surge. It's not like technically doubling. It's like whenever you create 1 or more, create that many +1. So if you make 3 Seismic Surge tokens, you technically only get like 4 Seismic Surge. But still a really good effect. And then if you control 3, you draw a card and gain a life. So I think this card's like probably just too good not to run in Valda. I think this card is like surprisingly pretty powerful, like doubling up on Seismics and then also potentially drawing you some additional value. Yeah, it's pretty. I think this card also would be pretty good in Bravo. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it probably would be pretty good in Bravo. I think Bravo lists of old sometimes ran Tunic, so maybe you're more incentivized to run like Tech Plating. But I think this card is like very strong. I also like the art on this card. Very pretty card. I think the last 2 cards I want to talk about are like Seismic Shelter. So this is kind of like it's kind of like Stonewall. What is that card? Like Stonewall. Let me look that up. It's like Stonewall something. Stonewall Confidence. That's a card. So it's kind of like a Stonewall Confidence, but except instead of like you getting the effect immediately and you having to pay for it, you basically are just getting buffed by, like, I think this card is like strictly better than Stonewall Confidence, just because like if you're in a deck that makes a lot of Seismic Surges, then you're getting additional block value, but it's kind of like a similar effect to Stonewall, where you're like disincentivizing your opponent from like sending a huge attack because you can like block it with like maybe like a 5 block on like a random like crush card. So I think this card's like pretty good. I don't know if it's like constructed good, because you're basically like, unless you're making like 6 Seismic Surge tokens and that you're playing against a Guardian or something, then like I don't know. I don't know if this card's like super compelling, but like I think the effect is like kind of interesting. Maybe we're not quite in the meta for it yet, I think is my initial, like the effect is surprisingly strong, I think. Last card, I think this card is a surprise favorite for me, Tectonic Instability. So I think that this card's pretty good. It basically is kind of like what's that card called? It's a Prism card. Look at like Illusionist. Oh, I guess I can't pull it up here. Someone remind me what the Illusionist card is, but it's basically the same as the one that tucks both arsenals, and then you get a little bit of value. Like the one I'm thinking of, like makes a Ponder token. Someone probably remembers it. Yeah, it seems like a pretty good UPF card. So I think this set's really interesting. Let's finish talking about Tectonic Stability, and I'll talk about the set as a whole. So Tectonic Instability is very similar to that other Illusionist cards where you both bottom your arsenal and make a Ponder, except this does it with like Seismic Surges, and is also a blue, and is also 3 block. So I think that this effect is quite good. So you can basically turn this into, if you have an arsenal that you don't want and your opponent has an arsenal that they don't want, you can turn this into functionally, or I assume your opponent probably does want to keep their arsenal. You can basically turn this into like a 0 for 3. You can basically turn it into like a Seismic Eruption, right? Which I think is quite cool. Obviously, it relies on you keeping an arsenal as well as your opponent keeping an arsenal, which maybe you don't want to tuck your arsenal, in which case you like maybe just like pitch this for later. But I think this card's like surprisingly good and just provides like another way to like make Seismic Surge. I've been kind of impressed with this card. Yep, so I think that's pretty much my set review. So let me also talk about Base of the Mountain, which is functionally just a Guardian, like a generic like piece that hates on Guardian for some reason, or hates on like Dominate specifically. Like this card's fine. It's just like I don't know. I think like people were kind of expecting. So let's actually maybe get into the root problem. Also, like Testament of Valahai, I think we probably like glazed over this, but this card's just like insane. You automatically run in Valda. Not a ton to talk about here. It's just often sometimes a 3-block or a 5-block. Yeah, very very powerful card. And then for Base of the Mountain, this card is like an anti-Guardian card that's printed in like a Guardian set. So I don't know. It's kind of like it feels like a weird niche. Maybe Guardians get better after like Super Slam or whatever the new set is. But for now, it's kind of just like a interesting kind of like odd equipment piece. Yeah, I honestly think that this set might be a precursor to a lot of the stuff they're doing. So let's talk about the set as a whole. I think what the set is trying to do is it's maybe just trying to provide like a precursor, like a little taste of what we're getting in Super Slam. I think that a lot of people maybe this is just like the marketing in the set. Dissolve Reality. Thank you. Yes, so that was the illusionist card. That was basically what I was talking about with Tectonic Instability. But anyways, I think a lot of people had a kind of idea of what this set should be. Like when I think of like a Guardian Mastery Pack, what I initially kind of thought, or like the product I guess I would compare it to, is kind of like a how do I? It's almost like a modern set in Magic, right? Where you're expecting there to be like some interesting new cards that will maybe like shake up the class identity and stuff like that. I think that that's not what this set ended up being, though. Like if you look at a lot of these cards, they're very cool cards with like very interesting effects. However, I think for the most part, like what we're looking at here is we're looking at like a Valda Armory deck with like a couple Victor cards, or like Victor, like some niche like Victor cards is kind of like how it feels to me. I don't know, like it doesn't really do anything for Bravo or like Betsy, Jarl. Like I don't know, it's very interesting. Yeah, I really like Tectonic Instability. I think that card's very very powerful. I think I don't know if you were on like all three of these, but like I had two of I found it's like pretty all right. So this set's really interesting because I think that what people expected this set to be was like, oh, we're gonna get Betsy support. Oh, we're gonna get like we're gonna maybe get like a new Jarl card, which I guess we did technically get a new Jarl card. We got the Marvel, but like there's not really a ton of like Jarl cards in the set because it's like our Jarl's mostly just an Earth Ice hero at this point, in my opinion. But like yeah, Victor is going to get pretty good. So I don't know if like Bravo and like Betsy and Jarl are necessarily benefiting from this product. I feel like what this product is really doing is it's like giving Valda kind of like an Armory deck, and then also giving Victor like a lot of new tools as well. So I think that like it's mainly kind of influencing those two heroes. Maybe this also adds some additional cards for like Lyle, and I guess like the new card, like the new other Guardian, like Pleiades or whatever her name is. Yeah, I think Test of Iron Grip is just a very powerful card. So let me ask you this, chat. Do you think this card will replace Trounce? I think it probably does. That's at least what I've seen out of like a lot of Victor players that I kind of watch, is that they seem to kind of just auto slot this in over Trounce, which I think makes sense. But Trounce does have some interesting like value proposition. Like obviously getting the gold generation Victor is quite important, but I think this card's like very very strong, probably just stronger than Trounce, to be honest. So yeah, what people I think expected out of this set was that it was going to provide a lot more support for Guardian as a whole, as opposed to like one or two specific Guardians. But I think that what the set ends up being is kind of like a Valda Armory deck stapled to a couple like niche Victor cards, and then also some like weird generic hate cards, I guess, is kind of like what this product feels like to me. I think that like the crack shuffle play aspect of it is really interesting. Like I have not played this as draft format, so I kind of want to play that instead. But for like the CC implications, that's at least kind of what it feels like to me. So with that, I want to kind of like maybe kind of go into my initial kind of Valda thoughts. So I initially based this off of this video up here, which you can kind of see in the fabric. So if you haven't seen any of like Olin's Guardian videos in general. I recommend you check them out. So this is, I think, what he's playing into like Lupine, and I also kind of like stole this from the Guardian Discord, I guess. So very similar ideas to kind of like what's going on in this list. I kind of want to take it in a little bit of a different direction today, but this is mostly going to be a testing out list. Like I think this list is also like a very good place to start. So this is yeah, Olin's initial kind of Valda list. He was playing against Lupine. I think this list is really good. Like this list a lot. I think it's got a lot of good ideas. I want to try to kind of like maybe just adjust it for my playstyle a little bit. So I kind of like stole a lot of, I guess, the kind of like ratios and kind of like specific cards. So I think that that's a really good shell to kind of like base your Valda list off of. Let me catch up with chat here. Yeah, sorry, I might not have meant to say draft. I meant crack shuffle play. So you can like, I think, what is the crack shuffle play? You get like 3 packs and then you basically like mix them all together and then you basically just like play with that pile of cards, I think is the idea. Yeah, so you can only crack shuffle play, I think. I don't think there's a draft portion of the set, although if there was, it would be kind of interesting. So here's I guess another question. For the draft part of this, are you both playing Valda? Like I assume they're not printing like other heroes in the set. I think it's just a Valdemir basically, which is kind of interesting. I guess it's pretty similar to like what they did in Bright Lights. Yeah, but I want to talk about, I guess, like this kind of like list that I also kind of threw together. So I think a lot of similar ideas to, I guess, what was going on in Allen's list. So let's kind of talk about them. So Binding of the Old Gods is a card that I initially cut from this list because I didn't fully understand it. But I think that this card is surprisingly powerful. It's basically just like better Macho Grande. So you get 6 for 10 stats, you get the Heave 2, and then as we kind of like talked about earlier, the Crush effect is mainly like ignore the Crush effect and then turn that into Dominate is functionally what this card is. So it's basically a 6 for 10 Dominate. Oh, excuse me. And I think this card's pretty good. The Heave 2 stat line is also really interesting. It allows you to do some like interesting kind of bluff plays, like where you're like bluffing like a pummel or something. So card's really cool. And then I think we're running a lot of kind of like the new additions from the set. So I like Aftershock a lot. This card, Refreshing a Seismic Surge, is very powerful. Fault Line similarly is also very, very strong, just as a 3 for sometimes 8, sometimes 7, but both effects are quite good, demand blocks. And you can sometimes just like play this for 0 randomly, which is also really good. Seismic Eruption, powerful, just like setup card, also functionally gives you Dominate with Valda, which is really good, really good as well. And then I think, so this is where I think our lists diverge maybe a little bit. I'm currently only running like 1 Surface Shaking, and I think I was reading some comments, I guess, on like the Guardian chat about this card. And I think you have to make, like, the most interesting comparison I saw was, like, comparing this card to, like, Showtime, where it's, like, you don't really want to play this over the course of the game, but if you get to, like, tutor it on turn 1 with, like, an Imposing Visage, I think this card gets really interesting. So that's kind of, like, the idea here, is that, like, I'm basically just having 1 copy in the deck that I can, like, Imposing Visage for, and then if I draw it, I draw it on turn 1. If I don't draw it, then, like, I'm not that upset with it just being like a blue 3 block in the deck. I think this card is kind of interesting though, because you do get like it's kind of like 3 for 6 Seismic Surges, so you're like paying 3 to get 6 resources, which is like kind of on rate, but like the draw effect is also like really weird. So I don't know, this card like I think is good. It's just I don't know if you want it in like multiple quantities. I guess is kind of like the interesting part of this card. Oh yeah, Overload. Okay, let's talk about Overload. So Overload's funny. So you can see down here that I had like Outed and Scar for Scar in here as well. So this is me taking the advice of people who played Valda. I've not gotten nearly enough reps, so I'm more so leaning on their advice. But initially, like in my Jarl list, this slot is basically almost always Scar for Scar. Just because like in the Jarl matchup, I'm pretty much always at a lower life total than the Gravy, unless something is going incredibly well for me. So Scar for Scar, if you're at a higher life total, obviously you won't get the go again. So that could lead you to also want to run Outed, which is basically just 0 for 3 Gogan. However, 0 for 3 Gogan doesn't have the block, gets a little bit less interesting. So I think Overload is functionally just like the same. So if it hits, it gets Gogan, which is really good. So you can basically just turn, like this is basically just Outed, but with a 2 block value. So you can basically, I think, run any 3 of these cards. I think it would be good, but I think for today let's try out Overload. That's kind of like my thought. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. So like I think like this slot either will become like Scar for Scar or it'll become Overload. I think it depends on like how often you're at a lower life total against Gravy. But I think you need some kind of like go again effect just to kind of like capitalize on, like, I think the idea here is you want to like kill an ally, swing face, kill an ally, swing face until you can like eventually kind of like whittle down the allies. But yeah. Yeah, Crashdown is my fun card. I want this card to be good, but it's probably not good. Like if I can put this on like like this is one of my favorite cards from like the what's that set called? What was this? The Tolarian Community College? Isn't that what the product is? But basically like 3 for 6 get +6, which is kind of cool. I don't know. I'm a very big fan of this card. I recognize that this card is bad, but it's sometimes fun to run bad cards. So maybe we'll try this out at some point if we play a little bit more Valda. But yeah, Crashdown is I think it's just a fun card more than anything, right? Just playing like an aura and then like passing, and then you set up like maybe like what do you call it? You set up put them in their place for like 16. That's pretty cool. I don't know. I like big attacks. That's also why I like to play Marlin a lot. All right, let's continue with the deck tech though. So promising terrain, I think, is like pretty much auto include in Valda. Just getting additional points of value with Seismic Surges, I think, is really strong. So I like this card a lot. Solid Ground, I think this card is debatable in terms of like whether or not people like it. I think that this card's like it's kind of like just strong enough, I think. Being a 3 for 5 is good, and then you also just get the discount, obviously fantastic. And then I'm also going to be, so I think this is where our lists maybe diverge a little bit. I kind of like the idea of maybe just cutting down on the surface shaking for Tectonic Instability, because I think this effect is like surprisingly really powerful. I've been liking like playing with this effect. I just think that it's pretty cool, and you also kind of like free up your ability to like get around Dominate, which is also really interesting. So I'm a pretty big fan of this effect, and I think it's kind of interesting. So we're gonna try it out today. And then for the board, I think it's largely the same. I think I maybe went up on a Pulverize and up or like down on like a Crash and Bash or something like that. But for the most part, I think that our lists are like pretty similar. Oh yeah, the tower card. What's that one called? Let's look up tower. Colossal Bearing. I love this card too. I wish this card was better too. The problem is like it has to be 13 or more, which means you have to run either what's that card called? You have to run Crashdown, or you have to run I think it's like Earthlore Empowerment. I don't know if we're in the meta for that, but I think there is like if theoretically we go into like a Guardian meta, like I think these cards would get a lot better because then you could just like set up a really big attack and then go wide. The problem is like currently we're in a Gravy meta, which we might not ever get out of at this point, but like the problem is like with these cards you're basically like going negative on action points, and against a lot of heroes like taking a setup turn like into like a Bonds of Agony or something, like I don't know if you could like afford to play them is kind of like the problem. But yeah, this is kind of like the initial ideal this is the initial ideal idea for Valda. Jesus Christ, I cannot talk. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna try to play this list. I think currently like the Talshar is kind of in like more of a Valda mode, like I think you have to play an open CC right now, so I think we might end up playing against a lot of other Valdas, but that's gonna be the list for today. Yeah, so let me know if you have any questions. But yeah, I like the shell of this list that like Owen put together. I think that's like the ratios are quite good. It's more so just kind of like figuring out like what the sideboard looks like. I think is like kind of like the most interesting part. Yeah, let's see if we can get a game. I think that -IO. All right, definitely want to go first, I think. And then I think we're probably going to bring in some of our block values. Let's bring in like the Sinks and the Crash and Bash, I think. Spinal seems good. Pummel, probably unnecessary. Crush the Weak seems... could be okay, could also be bad. Let's bring in the Crush the Weaks, and then obviously third Spinal, and then maybe bring in like 2 Choke Slams. I think the Choke Slams are kind of mid. Yeah, let's try it like this though. Let's see how it goes. So it looks like they're on more of like the COG version. Ooh, we have a Surface Shaking plus Promising Terrain to start us off. That's really good. So I think that's going to be the play. And this will also give us an additional Seismic Surge, because we get +1 from the Promising Train. We'll get to draw a card, get a life, so pretty good start. And if we also get to dominate Spinal, I think that's pretty good. I wonder if I probably should have brought in the Pummels. Maybe I should bring in the Pummels, or maybe just like leave them main deck. I also don't know if we necessarily need them. All right, so starting off with the 0 to 60. Testament is at 2 currently, so let's see if we can get a little bit bigger before we go. So what's the plan? So this Spinal is going to cost functionally 1, and then we have Ley Line, which we can use off plating. So I think we're just blocking a little bit here. Like maybe we're blocking with like the Cranial Crush and then arseling the Crush Sweep for next turn. But I guess we'll wait and see what they kind of do here. All right, playing a Boom Grenade off the top, so they're going to hit us for a pretty decent chunk of damage here. Yep, seems good. Yeah, the early Ley Line's quite nice. All right, hitting us with another 4. So let's go ahead and block, I think, with just the Cranial. They can Pulse Wave us, I guess. If they Pulse Wave us and take a blue... maybe we're supposed to like hold back 1 more. We'll block. Seems fine. If we get punished by Pulse Wave, then that's unfortunate, I think. But also not the end of the world. Oh, they have an on-demand item to galvanize with adaptive. I think that makes sense. So I was thinking they were running some number of cock. Is this just like the new arm piece for Dio functionally? That's kind of interesting. All right, looks like we're 1 card off the Pulse Wave. All right, but we are getting threatened by Heist here, which would give us a yellow Boom Grenade. So I don't love that. So I think we're probably just blocking with the Crush Weak now and going off an Arsenal. We will get to draw a card off the Promising Train, so maybe we don't need to keep an Arsenal, and then we can just give up, like... Giving up Civics is kind of interesting if we're just sending Spinal. Like, they probably aren't going to be able to go super wide with it, and this is probably a pretty decent opportunity. I kind of like giving the first Civics activation here. All right, let's see what our random draw is. So we want to draw first, or whoops, hold on, sorry. Pass. All right, this Talishar UI always like messes with me. So I want the Promising Trade trigger to go first. So I think because it is on the right side, they resolve in a reverse order that you add them left to right. So I think what is happening is this is resolving. So I think it's actually resolving right to left. This wording always confuses me, but I think this is correct. So we want the Promising Train first, so we draw the card. Then we get the option to cycle with the Surface Shaking. So now we probably do want to cycle this Thunderquake now. We could also cycle both the Tectonic and the Thunderquake. Kind of like that. We only need 1 resource to make this. Oh, we should have flashed in the Ley Line, right? Because we made an additional Seismic Surge off something. We made it off... we made off drawing a card off Valda, right? So we should have played the Ley Line first, but that's fine. So let's go ahead and cycle the Thunderquake, I guess. So we get a Seismic Eruption, that's good. Then let's go for... So I think... Oh, we didn't have another... Okay, that might have just been like a residual Seismic Surge getting made or something. Interesting. A lot of new cards that I'm learning. So we make a Seismic Surge off this. Then we get to Tectonic, and then send Spinal. If we hit with Spinal, we'll make a 3rd Seismic Surge, I think. So it's pretty good. And then we get to save the Seismic Eruption in Arsenal, which is quite nice. So I'm imagining that this probably just eats armor, plus like maybe a card here. Yeah, Armory deck Valda. Yeah, the trigger ordering thing is like so hard. I feel like it's also like non-intuitive. Like I feel like the way that it's phrased right now is like the opposite of how it actually works. Like I wish there was like a drag and drop of like left to right for like the trigger stuff instead of like a weird like click thing. Alright, but we're eating armor here, which is good. And we also get to sit on Seismic for next turn. So I think all in all this worked out pretty well for us. But yeah, until we get the context of like Super Slam, this product to me does feel like just Armory deck Valda. just in like a worse form for the consumer, I guess. But they're functionally getting like 4 blackout of equipment here, which is kind of nice. Oh, maybe they didn't want to go for the plating. Or maybe they missed the plating trigger. All good. Oh, or no problem. Sorry. Hit him with a good game instead of a no problem. We're not quite there yet. So I think they're wanting to... I think they're also getting confused by the triggers here. The Super Slam auras that are 2 cost. Let me take a look at those. So what do we have spoiled for Super Slam? This is looking for like a Guardian aura. Interesting. 2 cost auras. Maybe I'm missing it. Alright, let's go back to the game. Oh, seems like they maybe messed up one more time. Yeah, let me see where the 2 cost aura is. Maybe it's the this one. Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, in the palm of your hand, when this enters or leaves, you're gonna draw a card. That seems pretty good, at least for play. Oh, this is just a generic Guardian instant. Okay, that actually gets a lot more compelling. The Pleiades deck, maybe also that one. They have an Armory deck for that one. Let me take a look. Armory deck Pleiades. Oh, I don't even know. Standing Ovation, is that it? I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, but it seems like, oh no, I think they're having trouble. All right, let's focus on the game here. Maybe they'll figure out the triggers. I think they have to like click it and then do the adaptive plating. I think they can get it this time though. All right, so the cog works first. I think that's correct, and then we do the adaptive. Oh, is it at the bottom? I maybe just didn't see it. The bottom, confidence. Oh, it was the suspense aura. That was the one. Okay, I got you. Okay. So blocking out the spinal, but we get 3 pieces of armor, which is pretty good. Can't complain about that. And then we also just have the Seismic Eruption for next turn. So we can like block out pretty effectively and then just set this up. We also get an additional Seismic Surge off this. So now we're at 4, which is really nice. So now we can turn the Testament into a 5 block if we really want to. Oh, and the 2 put them in your places are also nasty. Oh, this hand's like disgusting. We get to like Terra Cinder plus put them in their place. So they get going on the Symbiosis, which is fine. Not the end of the world. We're basically just giving them functionally an action point. So I think we're not blocking this. And then I think we're trying to maybe just line up the Seismic plus the Testament and Arsenal the other, put them in their place. I think that's the plan. So it seems like a good opportunity to just Testament here. And they're pitching a red. So they might just be setting up like an item and passing here. So let's go ahead and block with the Testament here now that we have 7 surges, and then we can like Terra Cinder on to put them in their place when they're out of armor. Yeah, they got their... I don't blame them though. That's honestly not a them issue. That's like a UI issue more than anything. Okay, I'm kind of fine with this. Alright, Another Heights is I guess a little bit rough. I kind of more so expected them to just like play out an item there and pass. So if they're going for this, do we just like give them... Maybe we're just supposed to like give up on the Terra Cinder Dream. We could also just give them a Boom Grenade. It's not the end of the world, right? Alternatively, we can like give them 5 armor, which is also not super exciting. Maybe we're supposed to just give them the Boom Grenade, just so that... The problem is the Boom Grenade also gives them an action point, which I don't love. Well, I guess it doesn't, because they probably just don't even crank it, right? So I guess the correct play is then to just take it, I think. I think we're just taking it. Oh, they have a Teklo Core too? Oh, they do have a Teklo. Hold on. Sorry. They have a Teklo Core as well. I was initially only seeing the Boom Grenade, but I think that's actually worse. So maybe we're actually supposed to block with armor here. Maybe we're actually just supposed to like block like this and then like refresh Seismic Surge. Or no, I think we're gonna do this maybe. Just 6 block, put them in your place, Arsenal put them in the place. I think that makes sense. I think we're just giving up on the Terror Sunder Dream. But that's fine. We're gonna make a bunch of Seismic Surges here, so I think that's overall okay. So now we just hit him with a basically 0 for 10, right? Seems pretty good. And then this is also threatening the Ley Line hit as well as the Crush effect. Seems pretty good. So it doesn't matter on the order, right? So they discard the hand, and then we also make another Seismic Surge. Seems pretty good. Yeah, giving them Technical Core is probably too much. I think if we just gave them like a Yellow Boom Grenade, I think I don't care about that. But because of the Technical Core, I think we do have to probably just block there. But yeah, their heists have been good this game. Maybe I've just also like not been blocking very well, which is making them a little bit better. But like, pretty all right. Oh, and they're also hitting off a BIOS update. That's also quite strong. Yep, so I think we're just saying no blocks here. I think our plan is to just Terror Sunder, put him in the place again, or try to go for that this time. Oh, we went to from 4 to 7 with Seismic Eruption. Yeah, Valda is just Vincent. Oh my god. I never want to play this hero again because you said that. That's so true. I hate you for saying that. But that's so accurate. Oh, and they drew a card too, so now we just get the put them in their place. And that means we can now block with the Macho here if we want to. Which I guess we might as well, right? Because we're just going to Arsenal Chokeslam. Yeah, so this is disgusting. Yeah, oh my god, this hero is just Vincent. That's disgusting. And now we're just making another Seismic Surge. Gross. Oh, I can't believe I'm playing Vincent on stream. This is embarrassing. Oh god. This is just Guardian Vincent, right? Ugh. It leaves like a bad taste in my mouth. Alright. Blue 060 is at least not too bad. Alright, playing out another Red Boom Grenade. Unfortunate, but not the end of the world. I feel like they've had their Boom Grenades lined up pretty well this game. Or maybe we just haven't drawn into any of our reacts or blocks. Still not in that bad a shape though. Like we're still sitting on like all of our armor, and we have like a ton of tempo basically. Sure. I think next turn we're gonna probably want to start using armor, but for now I think hitting them with 11 is pretty good. Yeah, everything is just a Guardian and Ninja. It's kind of true. So we want the Valda trigger to happen first, right? So we Valda, then we Terror Sunder, then we Ley Line. I guess the Ley Line doesn't matter, but I guess we do it like... Oh no, if flop... Hold on. Flop the order on that again. So this UI is like terrible to me. Which is not like Tau... Like, I'm sure the Tau devs have like better things to worry about. But... So we want to put them in their place to go first, but because we selected Terror Sunder, then that like flipped the order of it. Like, look at I don't want to do it again, but like I think if you go back, I selected Terror Sunder and then that put that at the front, but if I just do this, no, it also didn't work. Wait, what? Hold on, sorry. Nope. Okay, so we put them in their place. So how do you order this then? It like feels like it changes between like 2 and 3. So we want the Terror to go first. Click the one you want to happen last first. Okay, so we do that, and then we do that. Okay, so yeah, I think we did it right. I think they might be inviting us to chat to also complain about this. Yeah, me too. Yeah. Oh my god. I guess it kind of makes sense. You want the one to... But I feel like that doesn't apply when it's like 2 triggers. Like I feel when it's 2 triggers, you put the one, you click the one first. I don't know. Maybe that does work, but it's also just like incredibly counterintuitive. Ooh, this hand's nice. We get a Rouse plus Chokeslam. Seems pretty good. So I think we're just taking the Fast and Furious here. We probably should start blocking with armor at some point this game, but we also like kind of don't need to. Oh, is this a stack? Is that how it's programmed? Maybe that is what it is, and maybe I'm just being stupid. But to me, like, I feel like the ideal way I would want it is like you have like resolves first on the left, resolves first on the right, and then you like drag them around based on like which I think the opt like UI kind of works like that, right? Where you want to opt the one like you want to like I think the opt does work like that. I don't know. Tegan will have to tell me. Tegan plays Morcano. But yeah, it's kind of hurting my brain. Is it a stack? Maybe I just need to think about it that way. All right, let's see what the play is. So you put the one you want to happen last first. Okay. Maybe I need to think about it that way. Maybe that will make it a little bit clearer. All right, Symbiosis. I think we're going to just start giving a little bit of armor here just so we're not like dying to something random. So we'll start here with just the Rouse, right? And then we can actually just play like a Cranial Crush instead of the Chokeslam, which would also let us like maybe potentially block more with the Crown of Providence. But yeah, I think I like this. So that made a Seismic Surge from the Ley Line, which is also really cool. And then we can close chain Plating. And then just send the Cranial so they can't potentially draw off the Cerebellum. Last in, first out, is that what it is? Okay. It seems like Cranial might hit here, which is also fantastic. So now we're sitting on 3 Seismic Surge again, which is why Ley Line, I think, is just like an auto-include in this deck, right? Like, you kind of just... It's like your power card, functionally. Alright, Zipper hit for 8. We're not boosting anything off the top, but we probably should just respect this anyways. So I guess the question is like... Oh, we have Solid Ground too, which kind of helps with the breakpoints as well. So I think we're gonna just block with like Crush the Weak here. Like maybe we're not even playing this Chokeslam, maybe we're just gonna cycle it for something. So I think we're doing like this, and then like keeping these two in hand. But yeah, Solid Ground pretty good. Alright, and then just a Red Throttle. It's also fine. So we can actually just like save the blue here, refresh Seismic Surge, and then send Chokeslam for 8. I think that probably does it. Let's just give like the rest of our armor here though. I think it's low opportunity cost. Maybe we block out... Well, I guess they don't even have the opportunity to Boom Grade anymore. So yeah, I think this is fine. Also, did their Cerebellum go away? So maybe we didn't even need to send Cranial, but it was still just like the best attack, I think. Yeah, it might just be a stack. Maybe I'm just like overcomplicating it. So we'll hit with the Chokeslam. We'll try it out in another game and see if it lines up. Maybe that's just the way to think about the UI instead. But yeah, it seems like we got there. Let's take a look at their deck. Seems like just normal Dio stuff from the looks of it. Yeah, it seems like this deck does pretty well in the Dio. Just because like they do want to draw cards that like Cerebellum and Spark. Yep, seems pretty good. Alright, let's see if we can get another. Oh, we can't play this in... I assume we can't play this in competitive CC, yeah. Okay, so we're going to go into open CC. Might be having to play into a couple of Valda mirrors, so I apologize for that. Alright, Mario. Okay. I probably still want to just go first to like set up into Mario. Testament seems good. I don't think we want to note those. I feel like maybe we're supposed to fat deck a bit. I think the pummels maybe are good. I'm going to lean towards fat decking a bit, but I can see this going a couple different ways. Like, I think we're just leaving out, like, the battered repulse. Maybe, like, 2 pulverize is too much. Maybe just 1 pulverize is fine. Let's try like this. Alright, Seismic is a good start. When this attacks, if you control a Seismic Surge, create a Seismic Surge. So I guess the question is, do we want to play the Seismic Eruption to set up a powerful play on turn 1, or do we want to just like pitch it for Tech Plating, then send Aftershock, which will functionally make us 2 Seismic Surges. I think it might be better to just send the Aftershock, right? Maybe it's wrong, but I kind of like this play. Because this gives us 2 Seismic Surges and leaves a Seismic Eruption in the deck, which I think could be pretty... Oh, do we have a Flesh and Bad person on the opposite side? That's so cool. I'm glad you enjoyed the sleeves, although you're not rocking the playmat, so... Maybe I'm getting stream sniped also. A potential. Alright, so we have a Kiss of Death coming in. What's the play here? Are we gonna just try to go for like a fault line? But yeah, that's so sick to see someone else using the sleeves. I very much appreciate that. Okay, so what's the play? We want to refresh Seismic Surge, fault line, pummel it. I guess we shouldn't even block a Kiss of Death, right? We should just let this hit. So yeah, I think we just let this hit. Yep, Scar Tissue's fine. I don't want to play into Tarantula Toxin, so blocking seems low value. But yeah, we're going to just take our 12 and like it here. Or 13? Jesus Christ. Alright, 3-card 13, pretty good. Then I guess we're just going to go for the fault line here, right? Or it's Aftershock. Aftershock. Which is better for curve purposes? I guess it's still the fault line, right? So yeah, we play the fault line. Then we pummel it. Seems pretty good. New pummel CNC. Notably also still pretty bad against reacts, but that's fine. So at least we do get the pummel here, which is nice. Under the Trapdoor is the spicy one. I almost wonder if getting rid of that surface shaking was wrong, because now we're not on 3 seismics, which is rough. Yeah, maybe keeping the not the surface shaking. What is the other card? The eruption. Maybe that was better, so we could get dominate. All right, so Kiss of Death coming in for 10. Not buff it notably. Maybe we're just playing like Aftershock and like blocking 9. Is that like the best play? Maybe we're blocking 6 and like 4 with armor. Do we like need to start giving armor for this? I don't think we really do. Like maybe we're just blocking like this and just sending Aftershock. I think I kind of don't mind that. And then just Arsenal to put him in the place. Taking a lot of damage though, which is concerning. Oh, we can't tectonic plating, so we just need 2 Aftershock. But that's still fine. It's functionally like we're getting to tectonic plating anyways. This isn't terrible though. Alright, coming with the surgical. Sure. Alright, don't think we care about Clave, so we're just gonna pass. So maybe getting rid of the eruption was bad. I think maybe you just gotta treat that as like your functionally like your Blood Rush or something. Because now we don't even get to like dominate to put them in their place, which is sad. And we also have to block this, or else they draw a card, which I guess we want them to draw a card, kind of, right? So maybe blocking this is not super imperative, but I probably should anyways. Maybe we block this just a little bit, just so that we get the seismic search value, and then that lets us like send Chokeslam. Thinking the block is actually like this, and we let them draw a card. Is that wild? That might be correct. Maybe giving them Gogan is wrong. Alright, so you get the Toxin on this, which is fine. A little rough. Not the end of the world. Kind of played into it a little bit. Alright, finishing off on the Persuasive. That's really annoying. Because now we either have to like give up Testament for 1, or we have to like sync will of this. Yeah, it seems like a really good play. I think we just have to like sync here. Still sitting on a decent amount of fridge, but we're like basically dead. They've had some really good Kiss of Death. Let's start with the tech plating, and then I just go into Chokeslam. So I think the lesson from this game is we probably should have just done the Eruption on turn 1. I think since we didn't get the Eruption on turn 1, we're basically like missing out on our first turn at Dominate. Because like making 2 Seismic Surge isn't as good, right? Alright, they do draw a card, which at least gives us a Seismic, so maybe there's hope here. This hand is like kind of whatever. So I think we're still saying no blocks here. Super awkward though. I think our plan is maybe just block 6 here and then put them in your place with the Tectonic. Oh, the Codexes are also not helping. I guess it's like fine-ish though. We can like block 8 on this, prevent the card draw, and then just put them in your place up Tectonic, but then it's coming in for 1 less. Yeah, not super exciting here. They do at least get to deny the little bit of value here, but they can always like flick the knife here if they want. So you can flick like a Graphene just to draw another card. Oh, interesting. Oh, maybe they're gonna like dagger, then flick the knife to draw a card. I guess that also makes sense. So in that case, I think we just have to pretend like that's not gonna happen, or like they're not gonna draw anything relevant. But yeah, it's a pretty good amount of value. The Kiss of Deaths have been quite rough this game. So let's start with the plating. Oh, they did draw a card, so now we do get Dominate on this, which is at least nice. So I guess the question now is, do we send the Cranial? No, I think this is just strictly better, right? So maybe we don't even plating here. Maybe we're just supposed to put them in their place for 9 Dominate. Hopefully it's good enough. I kind of have concerns that this might not be good enough, just because they do have a decent bit of fridge. Like they block, they have like a direct here or something, then it gets awkward. Oh, he gets hit though. That's pretty nice. So we discard Leave No, Bonds, Mark, Persuasive. Okay, like maybe we're not actually completely out of this. I'm kind of regretting bringing the Pulverizes though, because it seems like they're going into a much more aggro direction. So what is the play going to be for next turn? We can play the Cranial off of a blue. I feel like the play is maybe just keep taking a little bit of damage. We're almost at the point now where like the daggers are going to start killing us though. It seems like they maybe have a way to re-equip dagger. Alright, so there's the Orb Weaver. 2 Mark. This might be the opportunity to just use our Testament here. So maybe we're also supposed to like Crown just to get like rid of some of the cards in hand. So if we block like here, so this is 5. And then most likely we're expecting like a 0-for-3 pump. So maybe the gauntlets also get in there. We do something like this. Now what are we cycling? We're probably just cycling the Cranial, right? I think we're cycling the Cranial. This block seems weird. I kind of don't mind it. So let's get rid of the Arsenal. Drop Binding. Okay, just a neck was not expected, but I guess never is. So that works. So now we discard. So hopefully it's just not Codex on the back end. That would probably be the worst case scenario. So can we Binding plus Pummel if we keep a red? So this is 4, 2, 1. I guess we could theoretically pummel this. So I guess we should just get rid of the Pulverize, right? Like that's just the best thing to do. And then I think we just gotta take the 1 here. Okay, we're in pretty bad shape here, but let's see what we can put together. So we get the Binding coming here, and then we come in for 14, discard a card. It's not bad, but I think it might be a little too late, maybe. They do get a trapdoor, which I guess maybe means they get to block a little bit extra. But we're gonna go for the pummel. Unfortunately, Arakni is not a guardian. That would be a lot more interesting. Oh, it seems like they're just gonna... Maybe they didn't have a trap. Maybe it was a bluff or something. It's kind of interesting. think they didn't they already use a trap? Or maybe they're running under the trapdoor, which is so you have to have some number. Oh, dominate doesn't work with cards. Oh yeah. Okay, so this makes sense what they're doing. So yeah, they're getting a trap so that they can basically like play around dominate, which makes sense. I was confused because I was like, oh, they now they can play into dominate, but that's not how that works. Alright, it feels kind of like a setup hand, but I don't know if we're actually going to get a good opportunity to set up here. So what is this? This is like 0 for 4 or something. I don't think we die here. Well, they flick a dagger. Maybe we do die. You're supposed to block like this, but I don't think... Like, if they flick dagger and then they have like a 0 for 3 pump, then we die. So maybe the play is like we're supposed to also give like tech plating so we don't die, but I don't know. Feels like a losing proposition at this point. Like maybe that's correct though. Not sure on that one. So there's the scar tissue. And I guess the question is, do they have like another follow-up here? Oh, this is actually good for us then, I think. Well, if that's all they have, maybe we have a chance to get back in the game. So I guess we'll start with the Ley Line. Should we have Eruption on our turn? Or on their turn? That might have been better, because then we get the Seismics. Was that better? Actually, that might have been better. Hold on. Sorry. Let me go to their end. And then let's play Ley Line, and then play Seismic. Something like that. So now we get the 4 Seismics. Then we refresh the Seismic. And then come in with the Cranial. Did I count that right? I think that's better. Alright, so we get the Cranial, we also get the 3rd Seismic, so that's nice. Drawing an already hand, though, is unfortunate. I think this is maybe a boarding issue more than anything. Because I think maybe we're not supposed to fat deck into Mario. Like, I feel like with Slippy, I think you're supposed to fat deck, like, at least a little bit. But maybe against Mario, they're, like, trying to go for, like, a much more aggro direction. And maybe that's why we're kind of losing this one. Let's go ahead and block with the pummel, I guess. I think we're probably just dead here. Well, we'll see if they go for it. I think this hand, like, actually does nothing, though. So, a little unfortunate. So get the Spinneret. So I think we're just going to keep blocking, which is really sad. Like, I don't even think we can play anything here, right? Block with the Binding. God, if Seismic Surge was, like, worked on weapons, too, that would also be, like, so much better. I think, as it is, we're probably just giving them the full hand here. And then our Seismics are, like, terrible. And then we also lose our Ley Line, which is also real bad. I guess we could, like, theoretically just refresh it to put them in their place. Like, maybe this is, like, our out, but I don't think this is a very compelling out. Yeah, it seems like we maybe just had it anyways. Yeah, so, yeah, Fatigue Mario is still a thing. We played against a deck against Marlin, and that deck was pretty good. But if they're going, like, a much more aggressive orientation, I feel like maybe just, like, boarding up with the Pulverize is probably wrong. I don't know. I need to think about the Cyber more, but this is also, like, my 15th game on the hero, so yeah, it seemed like a Vincent moment where we just, like, sit on a bunch of rune chants and die. Oh my god. Now, you pointing out that this hero is just Vincent is just, like, ruined this hero for me. Alright, let's see if we can get a couple more. I'd say she's fun, though. She's more fun... I don't know if she is more fun than Vincent, actually. That's a good question. I almost feel like Vincent's got more interesting things going for her than Valda does. That's kind of sad. Like, you get Dominate, which is cool, but, like, I feel like Vincent has at least some mild complexity in terms of, like, sequencing. That maybe Valda, it seems like a bit more simple to me. That's not to say I think that Vincent is like much better. But yeah, they are very, very similar. It's just like your rune chants don't deal damage. So people have been talking about this as like a potential meta pick for like Gravy. Yeah, unpreventable damage and force discard is also like pretty fun. I think it might be better than Dominate just because like how much D-Reacts is kind of going around right now. But like if you compare like Valda to Vincent, you get like a kind of like stacks piece on your hero ability, which is kind of cool. But Vincent has the added benefit of like you get some sequencing stuff, and then you can also like do like on hit discard. I think like thinking about it more, it almost feels like Vincent. It almost feels like Vincent has more interesting things going on for her than like Valda does. I don't know. Maybe like the Super Slam set will change that. Oh, we get to play against a Gravy. Okay, let's see how this goes. I did actually think about the sideboard. So we're running Clean 60. I think we were running Testament and Titan's Fist just because like we don't need a Nothos for this matchup, I think. And then we're gonna run the overloads and see how that goes. Yep, let's try it. So this is my first time, I think, maybe like first or second time playing the matchup. We'll see how it goes. I imagine it's not great on the Valda side, but I could be wrong. Unfortunately, or this is a hand that can rouse the Ancients, which is at least good. So if they're going to take a setup turn, we at least potentially get to punish them for that. Yeah, I think it's like... I don't know if this matchup is like good for us though, or if it's just like playable. I'm leaning towards it's more playable than good. Unfortunately, the Rouse the Ancients is kind of putting this fault line functionally face up, but we do get to send a lot of damage here, which is nice. Alright, seems like they're just going to go for the Blood on the Water, putting Rigor Mortis in the bin. They will have to give us additional value here on the fault line. Them hitting off the top, a little bit rough, but not the end of the world. Alright, seems like they're just going to give a little bit of blocking armor just to deny the crush. Makes sense. Alright, putting a Swabby in the bin, we get a Seismic, which is nice, so that will enable us to Cranial next turn if we want, but we aren't going to get the added benefit, or we're not going to get Dominate on it, which is a little annoying. Maybe we're saying no blocks in this. Maybe we're just going to go for Crash and Bash, assuming that they're going to play out an ally this turn. Oh, they're just going to go for a Swell. Oh, this hand's like actually fine then. So now we get to Crash and Bash, reveal Cranial Crush. I guess the Crash and Bash isn't really doing very much now, but it's still probably just fine as a block. So we can't play out Terrain here, right? We just need to like refresh the Seismic Surge and then Synchranial. But still decent. Oh, thank you for developing out the what's up chat. We gotta develop out our Seismic Surges this game. Oh no, they're playing Fearless Confrontation. Terrifying. That seems to be the card that everyone is scared of right now. Alright, so we're at 3 Seismic Surge, which means the batter gets Dominate, which is sick. And they are putting the hook on this. So the question, I guess, is do we give up like Testament here, or do we want to just like block with like a 3-block? Yeah, thank you for developing that out. Okay, so Golden Tip will... I think we'll just block for 3. I feel like that's why I can never be a commentator, is because I have like weird vocal tics where I'll just say like developing out Seismic Surges, developing out I don't know, something. Oh, why are they not playing? Do they not have blues? What is going on over there? All right, so we're at 3 Seismic Surges. We get Dominate on Battery Repulp, which is obviously fantastic. Probably depends. I mean, I imagine they probably have some way to block here. So Fearless Confrontation will get around the Dominate, which is good. So I guess this is more like fair use of Fearless, though. Still pretty good for them, though. So they Fearless now. All right, so they're keeping a port side. Makes sense. We get to Arsenal Sync. Yeah, I mean, I think I did that in a video where I just said like developed like 10 times in a row. It was pretty funny. So I guess the question is, so they're not going to have an arsenal, which means tectonic instability is not very exciting. We could Imposing Visage for something here, but maybe it's just better off. Maybe we're just better off sync blowing this here. And the question is, I guess, do we want to cycle? Can't cycle the Imposing, but like most likely we're just pitching to the Thunderquake anyways, so maybe we don't need to do that. Or actually, hold on. Let's sync below. I think we probably should have just blocked a little bit because we probably want to kill the Sawbones this turn. Slight pun on my part. So I guess in that scenario, maybe we're getting rid of. Maybe it's just the Imposing. Okay, this is fine. So they're not keeping Arsenal, which means the Tectonic. So I think we should have like blocked a little bit more this turn, but we got rewarded by the Surface Shaking, which I guess is fine. So I think we're not supposed to bottom the Visage there. We're supposed to bottom Instability or bottom nothing, and then just like Imposing Visage and Hammer. But I guess this works out for us anyway. So play bad, get rewarded anyways. I think we were gonna tutor this anyways, maybe. Or no, we couldn't tutor it because of the Imposing. All right, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's just kill the Sawbones. But at least we get to set up a pummel for next turn, and then we also have the Surface Shaking, which is quite nice. The Surface Shaking actually might do some work here. All right, coming in with the Tipple. Let's, I guess, just block with Civics. Seems fine. So I think this is what people are talking about when they say that you're probably going to be at a higher life total than Gravy. So what it seems like they're doing is they're trying to do the thing where they just like play out a couple allies, or like maybe just like bank a couple allies, or maybe this is just like a light ally list, which is also kind of weird. So they have Chum in the bin, and they have 2 Rigor Mortis and a Swabby. Maybe they just didn't want to give us like the free opportunity to kill something. So I think the play is we're gonna maybe just cycle 2 cards here with the hopes that we hit a blue, so we can like overload plus pummel. So I think here we're not supposed to block, we're just supposed to give him the gold. Yeah, seems fine. So I think this matchup doesn't feel terrible at face value. I could see it getting worse, but I don't like the added seismics are pretty relevant, and they get to obviously respond to the seismic here. So I think they're gonna make us filter first, and then we have to like kill the Chum in response. So in that case, let's cycle the Aftershock and the Spinal here. Find a Tear Asunder. Interesting. So they're giving us the window to not attack Chum, or do they even have a window at the beginning of your action phase? Is this like a Tunic thing where they don't have the opportunity to respond? I think they do have the opportunity to respond if they wanted to, right? I guess in that scenario, we're still just attacking Overload at Rigor Mortis. I think they could have responded, right? If they had like an ally to bin. All right, so do mine, sure. I also this is like a weird like niche thing. I feel like I don't like that it does that where like I don't know, water grave triggers are like functionally meaningless, so I feel like them resolving is not super impactful. I don't know, or like the timing that they resolve is not super impactful. So I'm not gonna pass priority here, and just in case they change their mind. Like, I think in general it's probably best practice to not give them a window here for like Seismic Surge, but theoretically we're like missing out on 1 value. Yeah, I think they do have a window, right? So maybe we could have safely made a Seismic Search there, but I also am kind of like a little suspicious, like maybe they just like missed the window. But we basically get to stuff their next turn. The Chum living is obviously like a little bit concerning, but we can maybe take a turn off to clear that. I think it makes sense now to cut the scars as specifically as Valda. Like I think the scars are still quite good as Jarl, but in Valdis they seem maybe like a little bit less impactful. So I think we're cycling the Arsenal here, right? Just cycle the arsenal, hope to draw a blue, and then we can maybe batter. Well, batter still like doesn't fully work. We couldn't like pummel a batter, but we could just send a batter if we wanted to. So I think we're gonna fish for a blue, I think is the plan. So obviously it does make us go shields down for like conquerors, but I'm not even sure if they run those in this matchup. I guess they are running. They played at least or they blocked with one, I think. Yep. So let's go ahead and cycle the arsenal. All right, double eruption. I guess that's good, right? We get to just play both those out now. So functionally, I guess it's like drawing a blue. And I guess we're pitching a batter pulp just to refresh the seismic and then sending it in. Fortunately, we can't pummel it here, but I think that's still fine. I think if they wanted to chum in response, I think I'm fine with them doing that. So the seismic surge seems a little bit less risky. Yeah, but getting 10 dominating on batter to pulp is pretty good, I'd say. Alright, so you have another blood, that's fine. So, binning a Chartha, I sees. What does this mean? Alright, we'll blow up the compass, which is at least nice. I didn't fully understand that discard. Or maybe they just discarded off the top or something? Oh, maybe they did just discard off the top. Okay, so what is our play next turn? So we have 2 seismic surges, we have 3, so I guess it's probably just going to be like Crush the Weak. In which case we should not block this. If they want to respond to the triggers, that's fine. Or if they want to respond to the seismic surge with Chum, that's also fine. So I think we're just taking this. I think this makes sense why you don't run Scar, because we've been at a higher life total, I think, most of the game. So I think the overloads are like outed or whatever probably does make a bit more sense. Interesting. Oh yeah, they're playing Loot the Hold, so they just play out an ally. Or maybe... Oh, okay, they're running the Mage Master, so then they can get Gogan. Okay. Makes sense. So they don't have Gogan off this, but we do have to block, so let's go ahead and block, I guess. I think we want to keep the Crush the Weak as the card we're playing, so maybe block with like Aftershock and maybe a little armor is fine. Like maybe we just give them a Quicken. I think that's acceptable. And then we can like Arsenal Fault Line for next turn. So yeah, it looks like they're now going to respond to the seismics. In that case, can we play out the Promising Terrain and then Fault Line? We can do that, right? But the problem with that is that we wouldn't be making any seismics. So maybe actually the better play was to block, assuming that they're going to do that. Yeah, maybe that was better. So let's, I guess, make a seismic here. So yeah, I think the correct play was we were supposed to not block with armor and block with the block with like one of our reds there instead, assuming that they're gonna chum. I think that was on me. But yeah, I'd say we're still in a fine spot, I think. All right, so they call. We still have chums left over. So they're getting a back alley break line, makes sense. I mean, we're almost at fatigue at this rate. I think we should maybe honestly just pivot the game plan towards clearing allies at this point, because like we don't necessarily even need to kill them right now, right? Like maybe we're just supposed to like block, swing, block, swing. This hand's actually really good though. All right, so they'll get going on the rigor, attacking with the chum. If we block with Testament and we seismic, that will work, right? So I think we're going to transition to doing more of a clear game plan. The only problem with the clear game plan is that chum is around. So maybe we can't like solid ground this turn, which is like maybe the awkward part. So I think we're just supposed to take this here. And then maybe we're going to use the seismic plus Testament to block like chum or like on hit gold or something. So they're attacking with the chum. I think we're just going to go ahead and give the Testament here and then seismic to buff it. And then we can overload. I guess the overload's even awkward, right? Because we're not guaranteed that we're going to be able to swing at rigor. Yeah, it's still like a bit awkward here, but maybe holding on to the overload's like fine. But yeah, I think at this point we're just going for fatigue. So they skipped the seismic priority. Maybe they wanted to do that instead. Yeah, so it seems like they maybe want to hold priorities, respond to the seismics, discarding another chum. So now we just get to macho down, chum, hold on to the overload for next turn. And they are on a finite amount of gold kiss. Like, have we seen sea legs at all? Yeah, we've seen one sea legs. One sea legs, and then how many gold kiss, or how many tip bar keeps? Just the one. All right, they are also on 2 break line. Interesting. So it looks like they're just going to play out another chum. And then we can potentially like double overload a chum, which is kind of exciting. So yeah, I think we're still going to go for kind of like the more fatigue-oriented game plan, I think. Like, I think we could afford to at this point now that the compass is gone. So I think the play is going to be overload, overload. Well, the problem with overloads is that fearless confrontation. How many of those have we seen? We still are missing one fearless confrontation. So this could get kind of scary. I think that's correct, though. Like, I think we're going to take a bit of damage, and hopefully this is the last turn we are going to be taking damage. So we'll say no blocks on this, I think, and we'll force them to commit to doing something on their next turn. I think the plan is fatigue now. So they notably don't get the chance to respond, so we can overload at rigor, and then fault line that. I guess we could have blocked with the other overload, but maybe keeping that is a good way to clear the board. And it's also redundancy in case we get fearless confrontation one more time. So I think we could have gotten the additional 2 block value on that if we were worried about dying. Oh, prismatic is interesting. I feel like I've seen a decent uptick in prismatic Ley Line being played. Maybe that's like the new strat. All right, do love me some seismics. All right, so just prismatic Ley Line. So I think our plan is maybe we don't actually need to clear like double ally anymore. I think we're maybe just going to try to play around the last conquerors. So I feel like they have at least 1 or 2 more conquerors left. So in that case, what is the best way to block conqueror? It's probably like armor here, so we need to take 6, which is rough. This is maybe actually looking kind of dicey. They are supposed to block a bit. Like maybe we give up a Gauntlet's charge, but then we're going to get punished by Conqueror. I feel like this might be a scenario where there's actually not a great way to block. If we give up, maybe we're supposed to give up like 1 block on this. Does that make sense? Maybe it's like, do we care about getting conquered? Maybe we don't. I mean, I kind of do. Problem is, Conqueror is also going to be coming in for +1. So yeah, this is actually maybe looking a little dicey. Yeah, they are almost out. It's the cards that are left that are concerning to me. But I guess they are out of rum, which is good. So they have Sloop left. So I think we're just supposed to keep blocking out and hope they don't have a Conqueror. This is so bad, though. I like don't want to block this, but I feel like I also like have to block this. Ugh. I feel like if they conquer us, we're just like in such bad shape. But maybe we can't afford to play around Conqueror. Okay, so there's a Conqueror. Fortunately, they're not playing on an ally, though, so like maybe this is fine that we just lose our Arsenal. Like, Arsenal's not super high priority anyways. And then they have played a blue, but they aren't going to get go again. So actually, can they play out an ally here? We block 3, 6. We go to 2. They play out an ally at the end, or they don't play out an ally in the end, then we just Arsenally overload. Yeah, it's still looking pretty rough for us, I think. Like, they're almost out of stuff, but the stuff they have left is still pretty good. That's the concerning part, I think. Maybe IPing too many turns in a row with this overload was also a mistake. Alright, coming in for one, so revealing a sea legs off the top. I think we just give up, like, Rouse here or something. I think we're still expecting one more Conqueror, right? Alright, there's Tipple with the sea legs, so now they get the rum. So yeah, I think we're just continuing on the blockout train. Hey, what's up? Fortunately, our solid ground is now active. That's a pretty big plus, I guess. I don't know. I feel like we made a couple mistakes this game. So, fortunately, seismic surges don't work on hammers, which is unfortunate. We could just send this at them and then hammer or something. I think it's pretty not exciting. Maybe arsenaling the solid ground is like a better out this game then. What do we block? We blocked with a Rouse and an Imposing. So I guess this wasn't really helping us much anyways. I guess we will just arsenal solid ground in case they end up drawing a bunch of cards, but I don't foresee this being particularly good. I could be good with like the Ley Line for pitch at least. Oh yeah, maybe they just had a handful of reds and they weren't able to play stuff out. That makes sense. So we have one block here. I think we just need to start blocking out as much as possible. I feel like even if they stick an ally, it maybe doesn't matter all that much. But yeah, this matchup's interesting. Oh, we're so close to also playing out the... Oh, we can't play out the... If we play out the Ley Line, we can actually play out the solid ground, but I guess like this being... Like, functionally, we have to pitch this to solid ground anyway, so maybe playing this out is actually fine. I don't know. Could be okay. So now they have to Gold Kiss Rum just to give their ally go again. You can solid ground the Sawbones. Okay, I don't think we're in terrible shape yet, but it's not looking great. So we have the Ley Line here to make another seismic. And then we solid ground, go to 1. And then we still have the Gauntlets up if we need it. And then could also just block here, but that doesn't make much sense. See, I think the play is just solid ground, right? All right, going to 1. All right, sacking a little bit more gold. We're almost getting close enough to kill them with Dominate here. I think it's probably just wrong to send Macho, though. Like, they have Dead Threads, and they can probably block with another card. Like, I'm assuming they probably have at least a couple more cards that, like, block in their deck. So if that's the case, then we should just try to kill the Sawbones. And then, like, Arsenal Disable or something. Not super exciting. I guess we can also Macho... I guess we should Macho... No, I guess that doesn't make sense because we have to pitch that. Okay, so I guess the play is to just Titan's Fist Sawbones. And then this does play around the Relentless Confrontation, and we also get the Ley Line trigger, which is nice. I'm still concerned about our position here, though. Grandeur also not necessarily helping. Alright, this coming in for 8, so we can pitch solid ground and block with like a red, but it's also really bad. Yeah, I think we might be cooked here, because I think they just swing 6 and then we die. Yeah, I think so. Unfortunate. I think we also just found a lot of our no blocks towards the end there. And they also just had Sloop too. Yep, good game. I mean, we have 1 point of block, but they still get to swing with rigor anyways. So yeah, pretty scary. So let's take a look at their decks. They are only on 2 Fearless Confrontation. What do they have left in terms of stuff? So they had 3 allies and then a Golden Tipple, Luthold, and a Vasti. They're out of their rum. So I feel like maybe the draws just didn't line up that well that game, but also I think maybe sitting on that overload for a bit was maybe also what did it. Like we could have gotten an additional like 2 life out of that, and maybe we survive a little bit better. I don't know. I feel like there were some decisions that game that we could have improved upon. But I feel like the overloads are actually kind of good, especially since we were at a higher life total for most of that game. Like this getting unconditional Gogan as 0 for 3 that also block 2 is pretty good. So yeah, I think we might need to lab this matchup just a little bit more. All right, let's see if we can. Yeah, the pulp timings were awkward, and then I think the IPing twice was awkward. I assumed that they were gonna like play out wide, but maybe because we blew up Compass, we didn't need to like actually like IP with the overload. Maybe just blocking with it was fine. So yeah, I think there were a couple mistakes that game, but that's fine. Learning a new hero is always a little challenging. Let's see if we can get one last one, and we'll finish it up. So yeah, we IP twice, and then what else did we do that was a bit awkward? Just the batters were awkward. I feel like the blood in the waters they had were quite good. I think the plan, if we look at it though, is like pretty alright for Gravy. Like it felt like the overloads were good, and we also just have like Crush the Weeks. The batter the pulps are obviously fantastic. I think that we had like a fault line that I think also whiffed, maybe. I can't remember. Oh yeah, I also took out Put 'em in their place. I don't know if that's correct though. Because I feel like in that matchup, like you don't necessarily want to give them a ton of graveyard fill. Maybe it's actually like fine to do that though. Like I imagine this card being bad because you just like give them like functionally give them like 2 allies in the bin or whatever. And maybe that's not fantastic, but maybe it's fine. All right, we got our Valdemir. I think we probably just want to go first. Not sure if that's correct though. And then for the Valdemir, what do we want? So we board out the overloads. I think, let me set it back to like the slippy board. Maybe that's a little bit more accurate. So we're bringing in the pulps and we're bringing in the pummels. I think for the most part, the rest of it looks correct. I think we definitely want Testament in this matchup over Nothos. It's kind of weird, but it feels like you don't actually swing an Nothos all that much in this matchup. Yeah, I feel like Put 'em in their place is not great into Gravy. That was just kind of like my initial impression. We get to heave a Thunderquake here, which is interesting. And then we could also make 2 Seismic Surges. It's pretty decent turn 1. We would get rid of the Pummel, which is not super exciting. But maybe the Pummel is worth 2 Seismics. And then we just get to heave this. I think that's fine. Heaving a Thunderquake's not necessarily super exciting, but it's probably not bad. Just gives us a lot of blocking equity on the next hand. Oh, they're running Base of the Mountain. So we have come prepared for the Valdemir. It seems like they maybe wanted to pitch a 6 cost so that they come in with a Nothos. Makes sense. So what's our play going to be? We can like just block 6, set up Eruption, Thunderquake, draw a card. Seems good. Yeah, seems fine. Maybe we're supposed to like keep the Visage in case we draw blue, and then we can tutor for our Ley Line. Yeah, it's better. It depends on us drawing a blue, though. So this is all fine. I mean, we could also just like double Seismic anyways. All right, so we're coming for 6. I guess the question is, do we want a Binding first? Maybe the Binding is better, and then we're just going to try to go for like Crown of Providence to get rid of Thunderquake or something. It's kind of interesting. Like maybe we're supposed to just leave this in Arsenal. It's like a bit awkward, but maybe sending the Binding here is like actually a little bit better. And now we're like bluffing Pummel, even though it's just double Seismic Eruption. That's kind of cool. We did notably give them a seismic off of the promising terrain, which I guess makes it like a little bit worse, but not too much worse, I feel like. All right, going for the sync. Makes sense. Let's see if we connect here, though. Okay, they did sync, so we get an additional seismic there. The double eruption is almost like awkward. Oh, 2 syncs. Okay, seems pretty good. So the problem here is we're gonna have like 8 seismics and then like kind of nothing to do with them. But I think it's still correct to at least play out one of them. I guess the question is, are we gonna play out another one? Maybe the second one's like fine in case we draw like a pulverize or something. Eh, fuck it. Might as well not IP with it, I guess. Maybe it was right to like pitch it for later. Also, I could see that being the case. Oh, you're a pulverize. Pretty decent. So they have the Ley Line now. So I feel like part of this matchup is like trying to figure out how to destroy your opponent's Ley Line. Oh, they're binning a pulverize too, which is also pretty good for us. So I guess we're just like pitching like to put them in their places. To send the pulverize. Super awkward here though. Like I almost want to just like get rid of these cards, but like we need them for pitch. So like honestly, maybe we're supposed to just take 6 and give them the seismic, but I don't love that either. Like, I almost want to give them armor just to keep them off of a 3rd seismic. But maybe we don't care about what they play because we're sending pulverize anyways. Super weird. And we can't keep an arsenal either, which is also like super bizarre. This is awkward. I feel like regardless, we're just like giving them a seismic surge. Like if we crown, maybe this is just like a crown though. Like maybe we just have to give them the seismic surge and crown, and we get rid of like the crush of the week. Because I want to get this out of arsenal so we can just arsenal like one of these better cards. I think this makes some amount of sense, but I'm not in love with it. So now we just pitch 2 reds to pulverize. If we drew a blue there, it would have been a lot better because we can like refresh seismic. I think just sending in a pulverize is like fine enough. I don't love just like giving up crown there though. Oh, this isn't a crush effect, so we technically don't get the dominate. I think it's still probably worth it though. But yeah, I forgot that pulverize does not crush. Wow, pulverize busted card, right? But sad that it does not. I guess it like kind of makes sense. This is just on hit. God, crush is like so bad. Can we talk about like how bad crush and overpower are? Like probably some of like the just like most I don't know. Sometimes they're like completely irrelevant. It feels like. Alright, so they refresh seismic and pass. We have another pulverize hand. I think we're just supposed to like refresh seismic and then just send chokeslam here. Chokeslam could be pretty annoying depending on what they have. Yeah, I kind of don't mind this, but I also, I don't know. Some of these hands have not been super exciting. We do have tempo, which is good, but they also have their Ley Line out, which is probably going to amount to a decent amount of value this game. I think maybe that one turn where we had the Seismic Eruptions, we were supposed to like hold on to the imposing and maybe just tutor for our own. Like maybe that's like the best thing we can do. Alright, they are going to get Chokeslam, which is nice at least. So I guess we'd rather draw our Pulverize and Promising. Alright, just coming in with a main goal. So not the end of the world here, but we do kind of want to still block this. Notably, the crush effect does not do anything though, so we can kind of safely ignore it. And then we can just send like a put them in their place if we want, pitch, and then Arsenal Sync, I think is the play I see. It seems fine. I almost kind of want an additional surface shaking in this deck, maybe just as a way to make like 3 seismics, because making 3 seismics I think is challenging otherwise sometimes, feels like. Like maybe you just have to run that card as a 3 of, even though it's like not a card you really want to play after like turn 1, basically. We are doing some pretty good math here. For what it's worth, I think that Testament is also going to be pretty big this match, because from when I played the Valdemir like a couple times, just like goldfishing, I think that you don't end up swinging an Othos a ton in this matchup. All right, playing a headbutt. If you have a head equipped, the defending hero does, and this gets +1. Oh, that's pretty good. So they come in for 4 for 7 blue, and then on hit make another seismic, or on hit make a on hit make another seismic from the Ley Line. So I guess the question is like, what are we doing with our hand? I feel like we maybe just want to send like a macho or like a cranial. So I guess we're blocking with like a terror, and then letting them have more ley line value, which is not exciting, but I think it's kind of like past the point where we can do much about it. All right, so let's go ahead and tech plating this cranium. I think it's still fine. Base the Mountain might be a concerning card for this matchup. Like, I think we're running Civics, assuming that we're not going to just be playing into a bunch of Valdas, but I don't even know if like Base of the Mountain necessarily has like a place in the meta right this second. At least what it feels like to me. All right, coming with the Zealous, which is actually really good because this is also threatening another Seismic. So I think if my Guardian Mirror experience tells me correctly, this is the correct time to use Civic Steps because they're going to just play out the next attack anyways. And then we'll probably just save the Sink Below here. I think we're going to save the Sink Below for like an Othos. I guess it doesn't really matter much either way. But we'll save it for, I guess, a more relevant effect. Yep, so we'll save it for an Othos. Then I think we're going to Sink Below the Chokeslam and try to dig for a blue for Pummel. I think that's the play. We will give them another Seismic, but at this point they probably have as many Seismics as they want. I'm not super concerned about that. So let's start with the Aftershock. I guess we can also like pitch the Fault Line just to refresh the Seismic. So now we get 2 Seismics, which is at least nice. Then we get to sit on Pummel, potentially take them off a couple cards in hand. The amount of Seismics is concerning, though. I feel like that Ley Line's been doing quite a bit of work. All right, good Rouse hand, though. Or at least it would be if we keep it. So is there any worlds where we give them armor here? So you block 6, so no. So I think we're just blocking 7 and then like pummeling the Fault Line Arsenal Rouse is maybe the play I see. So we block 7 like this. Crush doesn't happen. And then we're, I guess like the Fault Line is also kind of irrelevant, but it's probably fine. Seems good. I think we just want to keep them off Seismics if we can help it. And 3-2, so the math does not work out where you can Tectonic Plating, which is fine. But yeah, we'll just go for the pummel here. So I think this is what this matchup I feel like boils down to a lot, is not necessarily swinging with weapon. Although they're like weapon swings have been fine. It's more so just it feels like you're supposed to just kind of like value trade with your attacks, and then someone eventually kind of dies. All right, they're very prepared for the Voldemir. I will say that. The staunches also seem pretty alright. We do at least get the crush off this, which is good. Or we get the pummel effect. So that means that they have 2 reds in hand if they aren't able to pay the additional for the staunch. Interesting. Or maybe they just want an arsenal or something. Okay, that's perfectly fine with me. So now we get to just rouse in the spinal, and we're kind of in pretty good shape. Or sorry, we don't get to rouse into spinal. We get to rouse into not spinal. We get to rouse into like Titan's Fist. Maybe we're pitching a spinal just to make a new search. Still seems pretty good though. I feel like their base of the mountain might not end up being super relevant this game. Just the way things are currently going. So we refreshed, and then we just send in the Fist. Again, our Gogan math is like a little bit worse than ours, so we get only like 11 value as opposed to their 13 value, but I think it's still fine because in general you just kind of want to be value trading with crush effects, I think. But Zealous Belting and Rouse tend to be just pretty good in the Guardian Mirror in general. So we'd rather redraw into that. Seems good. All right, Last Eruption is also good. So I think a couple mistakes I've obviously made this game, but I think from a macro perspective, we're kind of doing all right. So they're not keeping Arsenal. They're also not pitching this to keep the Nothos alive. So what's the play next turn? We actually Seismic. Seismic and unbinding the old ones is like a little bit interesting. But maybe we're supposed to just block this and like send Spinal, Arsenal binding. We can also just take 4 here. And then we can Spinal, Heave, Seismic, make a Seismic. And then when our Testament is at 5. I think that's actually the play. We just don't block. So you get the Ley Line's still been doing quite a bit of work. But so I haven't been keeping track if the Ley Line has actually been like helping them pay for things. But it has been like triggering very frequently, it felt like. So let's start with the Tectonic plating. They'll play out Spinal, and then I just like threaten a pummel and then bluff them and make 6 Seismic Surges instead, or 5 Seismic Surges, and get the 6th one there. It's a pretty good bluff though. So now we pass here. Pass here, Seismic, and then just heave the binding in. Seems pretty good. Okay. You get another Staunch out of them, which is also nice. And then we just get to heave this. Fantastic. But we can also get our Ley Line if we want to now, depending on what they do. Maybe just block with the binding, Arsenal this. Oh, it seems like they're just letting their Ley Line die. That's also fantastic. Okay, so in that case, we just go for this. Refresh Seismic. Get our Ley Line. And then we're in great shape here, I think. I think I'd rather Arsenal to put them in their place as opposed to the binding, even though the binding is interesting in terms of like turning off the hero ability. All right, seems like we're maybe getting a bit of armor out of them. I think last turn they didn't send an attack, so our Testament didn't get value, but I think that's still overall fine. All right, love to see this block. So we're not crushing here, but we also like don't need to. And then we're already sitting at 3 Seismics again because they opted to cycle with the crown, and now we're at 4. Fantastic. And if we can like tear asunder, if we can like keep terror plus blue, and then just like get rid of the spinal with like blocks, I think we're in pretty great shape. Like I'm hoping my block is just like Testament plus spinal. So this is probably one of the kind of like arguments against surface shaking, is that like you're basically taking tempo off to play this out. And ultimately, I don't think the effect is like powerful enough. Ooh, surface shaking actually might have been pretty good there. I guess we still get to tear asunder on a spinal, so it's fine. But yeah, that's I guess like one of the arguments against surface shaking, is that like they basically just took their entire turn off, and then we have tempo. So now let's start pitch the Thunderquake, tear, pay 1 for spinal, and then crash and bash, I guess, is just chilling. Seems fine. Was there a world where we could have actually just like pitched the Crash and Bash on like Arsenal Thunderquake. Maybe there was, but maybe I wasn't paying attention. That's fine. You can also just like IP with this. I think that's also completely reasonable. But yeah, I think maybe there's a better play where we could have pitched this to make a Seismic or something. Or maybe we don't make a Seismic, we pitch this for pitch, and then we Arsenal like Disable or whatever. Seems like they're going to use their base of the mountain here. So I think, shouldn't they not block with the Debilitate there and then base of the mountain? So they get the extra buff off of it? Because I think they can do any number of action cards from hand. So I think it's like strictly worse to block with it. Because I think they're taking 1 more point of damage here, right? Equal to the number. Oh no, it doesn't matter. Oh, it's not like it doesn't care about the number of times you banish anything. It cares about the number of cards on the chain link. So yeah, this block actually makes sense now. So yeah, they're still getting the same amount of value. So they get 3, 3, 3. Okay, that makes sense. Yep. So these triggers are both fine. So maybe they just didn't have another action card in hand to block or something. Oh, they did. Interesting. Maybe they just forgot about the tear. Also fine. Yeah, this is interesting. I don't know. This matchup's like kind of just a Guardian Mirror, for lack of a better, like, I don't know. It feels like most other Guardian Mirrors in this game, but I think there is some interesting back and forth. Guess we'll just Arsenal the Macho to maybe kill them here. And then we'll just IP with Crash 1 more turn. Seems pretty good. But yeah, I think this is probably going to be the last game. Getting a little bit tired. Let's take a look at their deck, though. Seems pretty similar to mine. The Headbutt's a little spicy. I think that feels like more of a draft. Like, the Debilitates and the Headbutts and stuff still feel like a lot of draft chaff to me. Like, I feel like the game has, like, evolved pretty far past, like, caring about Rouse the Ancients and Zealous Belting, to the point where I don't think those cards are, like, all that good. But, I don't know. I think you can make an argument for it. Alright, let's put them in their place, which easily gets blocked by the Testament and the Crash and Bash, and then we can just chokeslam on Terra Sunder, which is fantastic. So yeah, I think that's going to be the play. And we'll reveal the chokeslam. Seems pretty good. Tear... Oh, well, wait, what the hell? Okay. Tear pitching these. I must have, like, clicked on the chokeslam. Yeah, I imagine this does it, or at least gets close enough. And I can maybe just kill with the Macho next turn. But yeah, like, we barely even swung our weapon this game, which is kind of, like, it kind of goes to show, like, how this matchup normally plays, because, like, I feel like you more so care about just, like, forcing through Dominate on big attacks as opposed to, like, swing with a Nothos every turn. Like, I feel like the Dominate is super relevant in terms of just, like, doing stuff. So let's start, I guess, so we have 1 Seismic, we can Macho, but then, like, our Promising Terrain is awkward. I think we're actually supposed to, like, pitch a Promising Terrain, which seems counterintuitive. Could also... there's not really much else. I guess we could, like, we could have played Promising before activating the Tech Plating. I don't know if it really matters here, but I think we're just doing this and then Arsenal the Spinal. Like, maybe the better play is, like, pitch a red, but then we go off an Arsenal, which is also awkward. I don't know. I think this is probably just good enough. We have Shelter, but they still, I think, are taking 1 here. Alright, good games. Let's take a look at their deck. I'm kind of curious. I'm always curious what people are cooking, so... Seems like their pummels were pretty deep in the deck. I think they saw... Did they see any pummels? So maybe they're on, like, a 2 pummel plan. I feel like 3 pummels is just maybe too good not to run. Looks like they're on some number of Righteous Cleansing, so they're on 2 Righteous Cleansing, and then Shelters over Sinks or something. Or no, they're running both Shelters and Sinks. Interesting. Yeah, their deck seems fine. I feel like it's kind of more geared for the Talishar lobby of, like, running into other Valdas, as opposed to, like, I feel like the Talishar open CC meta is maybe different than the normal CC meta just by a little bit. But it seems pretty good for... I guess, like, the Guardian CC meta, I guess. But I do like this deck just in terms of, like, this is what I'm thinking about if I was, like, to play in Calling Kansas City. Unfortunately, we're not able to make it, but this is kind of, like, an idea of like kind of like my first list. So let's, I guess, go back to the list and kind of like talk about it. Let's go. Yeah, so this is the list we were playing today. Overall, I think it did pretty good. I think the gravy game we probably punted a little bit. I think there were some like micro things we could have done a little bit better. But I think overall, like we're actually doing like pretty fine into gravy. It felt like pretty okay from like the Valda perspective. I do definitely agree that you probably don't want scars just because like for a majority of the game, it felt like we were at a higher life total. So I feel like the overloads or like some other kind of like go against source like outed does make a little bit more sense. But overall, I kind of like this list. It feels like it would do pretty well into gravy. The Binding of the Old Ones also is a card that kind of surprised me, just as like kind of just a better macho. Just being a 6 for 10 dominate with basically no other text, and you also get the heap 2. Seems pretty good. But yeah, this hero is, I don't know, it's a little bland for me, to be honest. Like, I think the stuff she's doing is pretty strong. Like, getting discounts on stuff is obviously pretty good. Like, again, I think someone in chat made a kind of good point that she kind of does like the Vincent thing of just like reducing all her attacks and stuff. But overall, I'd say she's like I think she's fun, but I think she's maybe lacking in a bit of like complexity. So maybe like Super Slam, the new set, will maybe kind of boost that up a bit. But for now, I think she's kind of like just like, it kind of just feels like an Armory deck more so than anything, but maybe it's like a strong enough Armory deck that you can kind of at least have a plan for gravy. So maybe it's like, maybe she'll actually do surprisingly well when like calling Kansas City or something. Like, I can definitely see that. Like, what she's doing is strong. It does counter gravy. You do have some like back and forth play with them. So I think she's like a pretty strong meta contender, but in terms of like a fun deck, I don't know. Like, I feel like she's got some things that are like just very linear. It feels like she kind of just feels like almost like old Bravo, kind of similar to that, where you're not really doing anything super complicated. You're just sending like good above rate attacks, and that's kind of like the game plan. But yeah, overall, let me know in chat what do you think about Valda. I think she's pretty all right, at least to kind of like start out. Like, she seems competitively quite strong. But whether or not like that will hold true for like the rest of the meta, especially with like the new card like Fearless Confrontation, this card is definitely going to be quite scary, especially for the upcoming gravy meta, which I imagine is going to be pretty prevalent, especially if you're going to like some larger events or like the I think is skirmish season coming up too. Yeah, she feels very cookie Carter Guardian, which I mean, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think people have been asking for Valda for a very long time. And I think it's fine to have simple decks in the game. Like, I think gravy is like a mess of like complexity and like decision points and stuff like that. But this is also like another list I was looking at. This is Olin's list. You can also watch his video up here. I think pretty fun videos too. But yeah, I think like the deck is very simple, and there's nothing wrong with simple decks. Like Syndra is a simple deck. Maybe just like not my personal play pattern, just because like there's a lot less decision points. You kind of just like send your best thing, block with your best thing, that kind of thing. So yeah, GG's. I think we're probably gonna wrap it up there. But yeah, let me know in general what y'all think about Valda. I think she seems very strong. She seems very linear. I think that for the most part, when we were talking about Mastery Pack Guardian earlier, it seems like Mastery Pack Guardian predominantly feels kind of like they mixed like 3 different products. It feels like they mixed mix like an Armory deck Valda, and then it feels like they splashed like a couple of Victor cards, and then they added just a bunch of like limited stuff is kind of what it feels like to me. But I think there's like definitely some strong cards in here that maybe there's some cards we're missing that are a little bit more powerful. And then this card, I don't know. This card scares me. I think that this card is going to be very good in the upcoming meta. Yeah, but thank you all for stopping by. I think we're probably going to cut off the stream a little bit, but I'll take a second to read through chat. Yeah, she does seem like she's a pretty good like rogue anti-meta deck. I'm just curious like if the gravies will adapt, or if like, because it seemed like that matchup was fine. Like we punted a little bit, so I think it's like a bit more reasonable that like you could refine the game plan to the point where like it's pretty viable into gravy. I guess the question is like, does that hold, especially with like Fearless Confrontation? That's at least my question. It could very well be that like Fearless Confrontation doesn't make that big of a splash, and maybe it's not as good. Maybe they only play like 2 of them, or like maybe not like all 3, and then like you don't actually need to worry about this card all as much. But I'm a little bit scared of this card. This card is pretty powerful. So yeah, I think we're gonna probably wrap it up there. So thank you all for stopping by, and then thank you VOD watchers for watching the VOD and everything. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about Valda and all the new cards and stuff. I think this set's interesting, although I think a lot of players like just kind of thought it would be something different than it ended up being, which is totally fine. I'm hoping that Super Slam, like the expansion slot, kind of addresses some of the things that like players wanted out of this thing, which is like Betsy support, Bravo support, or like maybe even just like a random Jarl card or something. Like I don't know, a lot. I feel like there's a lot of cool, interesting things they could potentially do in Super Slam. So I'm hoping that that will maybe hopefully make up for some of the things that people were maybe expecting out of Mastery Pack Guardian. But I think it makes sense as a product to have it be like a crack shuffle play. Like you don't want to open cards that you can't play with or something. Maybe that was the rationale. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed, and thank you all for watching. And I'll see you all around.